Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
All right, welcome to the first UNSECURITY podcast episode of 2020. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. It's Monday, January 6th, 2020. I'm Brad Nye, and joining me in studio is the newest member of our team, Ryan Cloutier. Cloutier.
Cloutier.
I just said I was going to call him every single option before we started.
You choose.
Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
So, joining us by phone from Cancun, Mexico, is my usual co-host, Evan Francine. Hi, Evan.
Hi, guys.
How's Cancun?
It's nice. We got here on Saturday. It's I think it's Monday. Yeah, weather's nice. I got no complaints other than I can't find a quiet space to call somebody. So if you get some background noise, that's what's up.
Well, you are joining us from Cancun, so yeah, it was what we call sweatshirt weather here yesterday, like 37 and sunny. A little windy though.
It was a little windy. It wasn't too bad.
All right, make Evan feel bad for ditching us for the mid 70s.
It seems like every time I'm on the podcast, Evan has somewhere else to be.
Yeah,
I know. It was like podcast was 27. I was in Anaheim, California. It was the last time you were on, like 44. I was in Bulgaria. Now I'm in Mexico. What the hell?
Well, you're slowly getting closer to Minnesota over time.
I don't know. It's sort of, for these things, I'd rather be there with you guys, but, I'm not close. It's warm.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get to why you're in Cancun here in just a minute. But, first of all, we're going to welcome Ryan and, kind of give him the, was it the 10th degree or whatever the question level are here. So, welcome, Ryan.
Does he know he's going to put on 10 pounds?
Oh, is that how this works?
Lots of barbecue and stuff.
Yeah, we have, free, or what? Today, you guys are going to have pizza because we bring in pizza every Monday.
You know what, though? That was Q4. I don't know if that's going to happen today. I think it was just for Q4.
What's going to happen?
It might happen.
Boss, man. You want me to make it happen?
Yeah.
Well, I know when I was here, last, Evan fed me a fair degree of smoked meat.
Yeah.
So I definitely had the meat sweats later on that day, but
you'll get used to it.
Did you just build a tolerance?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Ryan, have you ever been 10 pounds heavier than you are now?
Well, for the first time in my life, I'm starting to actually put on a little weight. Turns out the closer you get to 40, a little bit bigger that belly starts to get. So we'll see how it goes. I've been about $1.50 pretty much my whole life. So we'll see if you can get me up to 160.
Yeah. I was $1.50 at 14. Yeah, we'll put on 10 pounds.
Yeah, we'll bulk you up. Don't worry.
I'm excited.
It's like the freshman 15. It's the InfoSec 10. All right. So a couple of questions we'll start with here, Ryan. So we'll go with the traditional office space. So what would you say you're doing here?
Well, yeah, great question. I think what I'm doing here, and maybe Evan will have a different idea, but I think what I'm doing here is continuing to pursue my passion for information security, right? Really love what you guys have been doing, been keeping an eye on you for quite some time, and saw an opportunity to partner with some passionate folks that I think we all share a vision of making the world a better place and, using our gifts in InfoSec to be the vehicle in which we do that. And so just in continuing dialogue and discussion, it presented itself to be the right opportunity. And so mainly I'm here to help and I'm here to serve and hopefully in doing that, make an impact on the world.
Evan, do you agree? We're going to put him on the spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ryan's awesome. He and I see information security so much the same way, just like you and I, Brad. He's going to be a great addition to the team. He's going to evangelize our mission, which is, to fix the broken security industry. He's going to focus a lot, I think, in K through 12, where he's super strong and knows just tons of people, very well respected in that industry. I think small local governments is probably another area of focus for he and I. And people. He's got a real passion for people. So I think we'll work on how do we reach those people with good information security habits. So all of the above.
Yeah, it was funny. Right before the show, I was like, we just started going off and kind of geeking out. And I was like, oh, wait, shoot, we got to call Evan. We're going to be late.
Yeah, we got on a bit of a tangent about how we would go about fixing this industry.
So it's good. I'm excited. It's going to be fun to work with you and, not kind of the whole sister company thing. And,
Yeah, I'm excited for the partnership. I think, a lot of great stuff going on, and really excited to just be part of a team that has passion. That's one
awesome.
thing that made me really attracted to you guys is you and Evan have continually displayed, a fire for fixing the problem. And
I think what you're going to find, what's amazing is just with all the analysts on the FRSecure side, just that passion top to bottom, and just the knowledge, and just having other people. So you're not the only guy.
Right. Yeah. Well, that'll be good. I'm looking forward, and hopefully, I'd like to learn a thing or two. It's one of the things that the last year or so, I've been so mired in the administrative side of things, that I haven't had a chance to kind of play with some of the new toys. So always love when I get a chance to hang out with the analysts and hey, look at what I just did with this new thing, or this new IoT I just hacked. And so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, they do a lot of really cool stuff, and they come to me with a lot of really good ideas. So it'll be fun. You kind of answered it, but what was the driver for making you go and change jobs to come over here?
The main driver was increasing the speed in which I could affect change in the K-12 industry. And, SecurityStudio is poised with its tools and services to allow me to kind of accelerate the last mile, if you will. And in the organization I was with previous, we were making a lot of great headway, but that organization is a little more diverse in what they do. And so we weren't quite moving as quick in the security space. And I saw a great opportunity to potentially even partner with that organization to help move forward. So really what made me come over here, though, at the end of the day was, guys like you and Evan. It really is, it's the people side of it. It's the passion that you have for solving the problem. And that was too attractive to pass up.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for, right, I could go one place and really improve one program, or work here with this great team and improve infinitely more, right? Like, I can only do so much if I'm there.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And just again, too, I was working at an organization that was, a little more diverse in the products and services. So really excited to be back with an InfoSec team with an InfoSec focus.
Very cool. Excuse me. What do you think some of the biggest challenges are facing K through 12 specifically in your job that you foresee?
I think the biggest challenge in the K-12 space is the amount of help that they need to get to what I like to call the start line. Asset inventory for a lot of districts is still a massive undertaking.
Right.
And that's also true in the private world, right? It's not universal just to K-12, but I think the biggest challenge is helping to accelerate them to a point where they can really start to do operationalized security, working through those administrative processes, and having to do that in a way that's not as technical as maybe we would do with our private sector partners. Right. So a lot of translation work, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting working with some K through 12s is they do have some unique challenges, right? Asset inventory. Well, it's not just their devices that the teachers use and the administrative staff. Every student has something. Right?
Yeah. You can have a district with, that's relatively small, have 40,000 devices.
Right.
And most of them go home and are potentially also then used as a personal computing device in addition to a school device. So, part of it is you got to work with the community, the parents. So you have more stakeholders, if you will, in a K-12 setting than you would traditionally in a business setting. And I think that's part of the challenge, but also the opportunity.
Yeah. And the other thing I've noticed, is from the administrative governance side, policy is a bad word because that's a school board thing versus
Yeah, it's so Evan and I talked about this. Oh, what was it, Evan? 2 weeks ago, I think we had sat down for a chat. And we talked about how it's just an accent thing, right? So it's not that it's even a different language per se, but it's just the enunciations, right? It's an accent thing. So for them, policy means something significantly different than what we have traditionally understood it to mean. And so they have a term that they prefer over policy, which is a guiding principle or a best practice or a guideline. And honestly, I've had great success with districts in navigating those waters and saying, okay, well then let's make the school board policy about IT policy simply say, our IT security policy says that we maintain a book of guidelines. Go see the book of guidelines.
Specific phrases. Yeah. And then they're always stuck with, they're not funded well. Let's be honest, right? At the end of the day, your IT staff that's responsible for this typically does not have a lot of resources at their disposal.
Yeah, I think, and part of that is because tech traditionally has been viewed as an add-on to the school and not necessarily a foundational part.
It's a requirement just to keep the students and teachers happy then that's it.
Well, exactly. And so I think part of that funding challenge lies in the community not fully understanding why that funding is needed. Because, let's be honest, security is a bit hard to quantify. It's kind of an intangible, if you will, right? The value of data for a lot of people is still an intangible idea that this invisible thing of zeros and ones could have a financial value.
Right.
So I think, it's on guys like us to continue to do what we do and talk about this, to empower the community members, to educate the parents, and the approach I like to take is to do it in a non-technical fashion, really make it what I call dinner table relatable. But I think that's how we overcome it. I don't think it's going to be a limitation for much longer. But we've got to do a better job of how we articulate the need for that funding and how that funding ultimately helps protect the child's safety.
Yeah.
Not just their privacy. Privacy is a bit of a ethereal concept.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm excited. Evan, I know you are as well. And I think the rest of the team is, from what I've heard, is pretty good. Excited to have you here. So
I'm just excited to eat more bacon.
There's lots of bacon. All right. So Evan is down in Cancun starting another book. He's getting it started, and rumor has it that I am. And maybe if he ropes you into it, if you're a big enough sucker like I am, you'll be helping as well.
I have also heard this rumor. I'm excited for that opportunity as well. Right. It's actually something that's always been on my bucket list, to do is to write a book. And so, even if I just do a little bit of reading and thought, I do edits for my wife. She runs a blog for women's vaginal health. And so that makes for, some interesting reads. But I act as her editor. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens when a real author, writes something.
Lots of made up words. So, Evan, about the book, what is the point of the book?
What's that? I'm sorry.
What's the point of the book?
Oh, it's, paper and words and things.
You just wanted your name on something else?
No, the point of the book is, what parts, it's building off of chapter 1 and more of the first book where, we talk about this language problem that we have in our industry, how, something as simple as what is information security is so just the understanding of that is so different, and certainly in the underserved markets, when you talk about SMBs, small to medium sized businesses, K through 12, local governments. We saw last year how they just got hammered last year. So I feel like we sort of owe it to those markets to give them more. So this book is really just a manual. If you read the book Traction by Gino Wickman, which is a great book, this builds off that same, or uses that same sort of framework that he used because it was so successful, certainly in SMBs. We're going to do the same sort of thing with information security. Give people a manual help people structure it, help people understand, how do I set up meetings? How often should I have meetings? What should I call the meetings? Just all that stuff. So it'll be a really good book, hopefully. And the part I'm down here this week just writing sort of the outline. I'll start putting some meat into it, and then bring you guys into the mix. Fill out your areas of expertise. Nobody can, in my opinion, I don't know anybody who could write better on K through 12 than Ryan. So why not invite him in to write the book? As far as I know, one of the people that I trust just about more than anybody. Talking. Oh, geez. Is you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, it's not a cartel battle or anything. So that just dropped a big thing of garbage. What am I doing? Oh, and you, Brad, with what you're going to write on the SMB space, and being able to also translate over into K through 12, because you've certainly worked there and local government. I think it's just going to be a really good book.
Yeah,
I think it'll help the industry.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, it's the focus thing could be there's so many 3 to 4 million businesses in that 10 to 2,500 employee range. Is that about right, Evan?
Yeah, actually, yep. In 20 to 1,000 employees, and that's just businesses, right? We're not talking about nonprofits. We're not talking about K through 12. We're not talking about local government. Just in business, there's 3.1 million companies in that 20 to 1,000 space. And the sad facts are 90% of those companies aren't doing fundamental risk assessments. And you and I have built plenty of security programs over the years. There's no way to build a security program, at least not one with any direction or strategy, if you don't have a risk assessment. So we got to do something about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is, there's no way we could possibly hit all those as a company. I mean, it's just the reality of the numbers game. So this is a way to get that message out there, help the mission move forward. So, since Ryan and I haven't written a book, what have we gotten ourselves into? What's it like to write a book?
Well, it's not too bad. I think, the first time, I had no idea what I was doing, right? So I came down here, thought I'd whip out a book in 2 weeks and be done with it. That didn't happen. There's a lot more to it. But it's like wrestling yourself. The experience is super rewarding. And it's funny because just down here in Cancun, I met some people that I've seen in previous years. And one of the guys I met on the airplane said, I want to write a book. Can you tell me how to write a book? And I'm like, dude, just start writing. You just start writing. You just start putting things down on paper. It's like a big lump of clay that doesn't make any sense. And you start kind of molding it into something that hopefully somebody will understand. But I think it's an expression of yourself, right? It's like a painter, it's just art. You just throw it out there, and as long as you're happy with it, then don't worry so much what the audience thinks, right? It's you. So it's kind of hard, but I think it'll be a lot easier when you've got a couple other people to write with, because you'll bring different perspectives. Hopefully we'll reach a wider audience. It won't be kind of so lonely. But it's a cool experience. You guys are going to like it.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I'm looking forward to, going to Cancun and, writing a book and
come on down, man.
I'll tell you what, I'm really actually quite stoked about this. And, I've done a little bit of writing, not a whole lot, a couple articles here and there, but, no, I think the collaboration element for me is what I'm most excited about.
Right.
'Cause the best ideas come out of groups. Right. Small groups. Right. We know herd mentality, right? We start getting too many cooks in the kitchen and it goes off the rails. But
for me, doing articles and some blogs and stuff like that, you get to a point where you're like, shoot, I don't know what to put here. And you have to leave. Well, now, I'm hoping it's kind of like, well, take some of that pressure off, because now you got other people to kind of come in, and even if it's just, oh, what about this? And you're like, oh, yes. And then you go, right. It's going to help out.
And I was actually just doing an edit last night for my wife's latest blog post, and my edits actually inspired her to create additional content.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because
Very cool.
I just said, hey, turn a phrase here. And instead it turned into, well, that's a whole new section. So hopefully we don't create too much work for Evan by helping.
I think we're going to create more work for the editor to come back and be like, guys, you wrote like 6 books worth of stuff here. So
I think another thing about writing a book together is, hopefully, I mean, for me, it got kind of contagious. So maybe you guys will catch the bug too and write additional books. I think, Ryan, you could write a couple of books about K through 12. And, Brad, I know you and I know your past and your history. I mean, you've got so many experiences that you could bring to bear and I think help other people in books too. So maybe this is just the beginning. I think it takes the pressure off a little bit too to have 3 people writing a book together. But then I also think that it helps with accountability, right? If one of us hasn't finished our part of the book yet, well, then the other 2 are going to be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah. So I guess the next question is, when can people expect to see this come out? What is our deadline to get this done?
Well, we're all, not only are we all, we're all full-time employed, right? We're all busting our butts working 50, 60, 70 hours a week at our day job. We've all got families. We're all married and got, kids to take care of and all those other things. So I don't want this to get in the way of everything else that, our priorities, but hopefully by third quarter, of 2020, this book will be, in people's hands and we can start working from it.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much work we give the editor and how much they come back with. Like, what are you guys doing?
I learned a lot on the first book. My ghostwriter. So my first book, chapter 1 was like a book by itself because I just kept rambling and rambling and rambling and rambling. And so the editor was like, yeah, I think we have too much editing to do on this book. So we're going to get a ghostwriter to help you kind of rewrite a little bit of chapter 1. And so, when the ghostwriter finished that, he, at the book release party, he's like, yeah, I've been doing this for like 20 years. You almost killed me with chapter 1. Like, sorry about that. So I learned a lot about that. So I think, the editing process should go much quicker on this book.
Yeah. I think, that's the biggest thing is don't over explain. Just keep it succinct and short.
Right. Less is more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited. I know Ryan and Evan are excited. This will be good. So something to look forward to and hear updates throughout the course of the year of, you can tell, you'll be able to tell when Mondays come around and Evan and I are dragging that we've been putting in extra hours on it. All right. So last week, we looked at kind of all the things that were not so good. And so now we're trying to be a little bit more positive. So we're going to look forward to 2020, but, looking back at 2019 for some positive news, we talked about all the breaches and everything last week. So, let's try and figure out and get some positive momentum in the new year. I think, I speak for Ryan and Evan. We say we love what we do. We love this industry. There's so much that's broken, but there's so many people that really are doing amazing things. Evan, as you put in there, you have a saying, information security isn't about information or security as much as it is about people. And using this, what good things happened in 2019 that we can be proud of? So, Evan, you put some notes in there, but I'm going to let you start on this and maybe give us something positive that you have from last year. Or not? Yes.
Well, one of the things I saw last year, we've all been in this industry for a long time. It was such a white male-dominated industry for so long, and it probably still is. One of the things I've seen emerge in the last year or two that has been really exciting for me is seeing more women and more minorities in our industry emerging as leaders. So, on Twitter, you follow a lot of people and you see some of the things that they're putting out. And I think diversity has improved vastly in 2019, and hopefully we can continue that progress that we've made. That's been really, really cool for me this year.
Yeah. I agree. I think you definitely see, and I think it's more acceptance of that diversity too. That's a big part of it. So what about you, Ryan? What's something positive?
It was more towards the end of 2019, but one of the positives that I've seen that I think will continue into 2020 is the home consumer has become more aware than ever that there's a problem, that there's potentially a role for them to play. And we're starting to see a little bit of vendor accountability. We look to what happened with Ring. Mm-hmm. I know myself during the holidays and during the last couple of family functions that I've had leading up to the new year, everybody's coming up to me. I've got an Alexa. I've got a Ring camera in my house. I've got what do I do about this? Right. I had one of the groups that I speak to is the Rotary Club. And I just got a communication from them saying, hey, listen, after Christmas and the holidays, and we saw some news stories and we're all terrified. Can you come back and talk to us about, how do we secure this stuff? So I think that for me, I see as a really positive trend because those are the small business owners. Those are the parents of the kids in K-12. Those are the teachers and administrators and also the CEOs, if you will, of big companies. So I'm just excited to see it become more of a household topic.
Yeah, I think, and mine is, it really plays off of that is that I started seeing, especially like you said, second half of the year, more companies coming to us being proactive, right? Not, hey, we have to do this because of we want to do this because I don't know. Right. I need to start somewhere. What can we do? So I think kind of goes hand in hand with yours, positive there. I think that's really good. You want people to be proactive ahead of the game versus, oh, well, we had an incident. How can you help us?
Right. It's always easier to prevent the mess than clean it up.
Yeah. So how about job prospects for information security? I know we talked with, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Ken?
Ken Bechtel.
Talking about Ken?
Yep. Yeah. So, some of the guys that have been around, longer that maybe are out getting put out and trying to find jobs and all that. What do you think the job prospects are looking for those people? We'll start with Ryan this time. Put you on the spot.
Yeah. So, are you referring to maybe more of our senior staff?
Yeah. It gets turned over because cost cutting.
Correct. So I think you're going to see their prospects start to shift and a lot more private consultancy. I think because you can't replace experience. Right. And while companies may want to try to save a few dollars by, trying to turn that employee over, and we see this in all job functions, right? Mm-hmm. The more senior the staff, the higher the pay. We can get two people at half the price.
Right.
But especially in this industry, experience is invaluable. If you haven't lived through it, you don't know where it came from. It can really be a challenge and you can't see that pothole up ahead because you've never driven the road before. Yeah. So I think the prospects for them, probably a lot more if they've done enterprise, going to medium businesses, maybe for a pay cut, but to stay in the game. And I think for the ones that won't take that pay cut, I think you're going to see a lot more entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, we definitely see more, people coming to us that are burnt out or, right, they're done with that and kind of having a little bit more control over their career and their life and coming and consulting with people. Cause that experience, you can't replace 20 years of experience. It's just, right. You can't do it.
I think like most things in our industry, you hear so much about, how we have, 3 million open positions. We have a severe talent shortage and all those other things, that's the negative way, I think, to look at it. There's also the positive, like, man, what a great opportunity for the next generation of kids, so where Ryan's going with K through 12, or where we're going with K through 12 and post-secondary education. What a great opportunity to reach these people. It's like a greenfield opportunity to start teaching these good habits. So much of information security is habits, right? It's building good habits. So I think there's just a great opportunity for anybody who wants to get into this industry. And it's not, there's this misconception, especially with the younger generation that it's, I'm going to be a hacker, right? I'm going to get, leaked and do all this. That's not what security is, right? I mean, that's a part of security, but it's these other things. So if you have a passion for people and helping people, even customer service skills, can apply really nicely in information security. So I think it's a great opportunity. The older generation, I think sometimes some of the struggles that they have, there's tons of experience there. But I've seen a couple of times now, just personally, where the industry they got stuck in one spot for so long that the industry sort of passed them by. And then they get out in the job force again, and it's like, I can't get a job. Well, maybe it's time to retool a little bit, get current with some of the things that are going on in our industry. But the prospects are great, right? The numbers tell you so.
Yeah, and I would say I've had an increase actually in folks that aren't in the IT industry, but are maybe nearing the late 40s, early 50s, that have approached me to say, I've been an accountant all my life, and I'm done with it. I've done it for 25 years. It's not that I don't love it, but I've done the same thing for 25 years. Right. This looks exciting to me, but I don't know much about computers. And that's when I will, kind of say, hey, just to the point that Evan just made, there's so many jobs within the InfoSec sphere that aren't technical jobs. Mm-hmm. Being a risk manager has very little to do with technical stuff, right? Yeah. And we know that risk is a huge part of security. And so I fully expect us in 2020 to see an increase in the number of open risk management type positions. Cause who's juggling the mess, right? How are you managing all this stuff? And I would, tell senior account managers and people like that might be a good segue for them.
Yeah.
But I've definitely seen an increase in that. It's the youth that I'm trying to reach because, they see this as work. And there's something in this newer generation that if the word work comes up, there's all of a sudden an allergic reaction. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah. It is interesting. I think you're right. There is so many different non-technical roles. Now, having a technical background will help in a lot of it, but business continuity, risk management. I mean, even things like vendor risk management. Yeah. You don't have to have a very technical background. You just have to understand enough and be able to assess the risk and know, what kind of information do they have? What do we need to have in place around that? So, I think that's a big one is, don't be afraid as well. And just don't be overwhelmed.
One of the reasons why I've always liked, the CISSP, for better or worse, is it just gives you that broad view of what information security is, and then you can pick whatever it is you want to specialize in. And it's even good for if you're a pen tester, right? Getting a broad view. That way you can put the work that you do every day into perspective with everything else that has to run together with what you do. So, within that broad spectrum of what information security actually is, and there's jobs for trainers, there's jobs for customer service, there's jobs for risk managers, there's jobs for pen testers. I mean, God, you name it. There's a job.
Yeah. I mean, even writing policy, it's not a technical thing, governance piece.
It's a painful thing.
Try to help on that. But having writing skills, being able to communicate.
Some of the best CISOs I know aren't technical at all.
So, well, that's a good segue for the next one as our CISOs emerging as real business leaders in greater numbers. And it's hit or miss. I think
in general they are. I mean, you're starting to see more CISOs. It's not going anywhere near fast enough.
Yeah.
I think we're making progress where CISOs are actually getting a seat at the table more.
I'd agree with that.
But we got a long way to go.
But, and I think for what I've seen in the businesses that have already embraced the concept that they're a digital business that does something other than digital. And I'll pick on Domino's for a second. About 2 years ago, they came out and they said, we're a digital business that makes pizza. In organizations that have that mindset, I think the CISO has got a stronger table.
Yes.
I think in those organizations, the CISO is more likely to be a peer within the business suite, within the C-suite, because they've already embraced the idea that going forward, it really doesn't matter the widget in which you manufacture. You've got to use computing and computers and the internet and, all
Right.
these mobile devices and things to deliver your goods and services to your customer. I mean, think about the pizza tracking app, right?
Right. Yeah.
They did it. And within 6 months, every pizza place in town has a track your delivery.
Yeah.
So
Order online and track it. Yeah. Well, and I think, my initial response was because it's not everywhere. The ones that are able to communicate to the business why they should have that. Yeah, absolutely. You're starting to see more. I think the biggest issue we're still having is that not all of them have that message or are able to communicate it well. Right. So I think that's an opportunity for us to help craft that message and be able to explain, here's how you get this across.
Well, yeah. And I would add to that, it's security is a business differentiator in 2020.
Yeah.
And the more companies that wake up to that fact, I think we can accelerate, right? And that's why you'll hear me, as we work together a lot, you'll hear me try to put pressure on the consumer, because the consumer then in turn puts pressure on the business. So if I'm only going to buy product from companies that have met a particular standard, then all of a sudden everyone's going to want to meet that standard. And so part of that is the work we're doing, to educate. And part of that'll be this book and other things to humanize this topic, right? To make it to where everyone understands if you're in 2020, you're living a digital life. This is what what this means. We hold our automakers accountable. We hold our airplane manufacturers accountable. We hold our food manufacturers accountable. Because we understand that there's impact and consequence if things go wrong with those products. And I think we're just at the very beginnings of starting to see a similar model get applied to technology that we've kind of woke up. It's been about 12 years since the iPhone, 12, 13 years now.
Yeah, something like that.
And so I think we're finally just settling in to go, wow, this thing really had an impact on our world. And it's really changed how we do everything we do. And so,
well, I think we all know, is a general rule, businesses are slow to change. I mean, it's right. If it's been working, why change it?
Right.
And the ones that are getting ahead of the game and going, like I said, hey, we realize that this is a critical piece of our business, information security, versus those that don't pay attention to it. Well, it hasn't happened to us yet, so don't worry about it. That, like you said, that's going to be a differentiator here in the next, year or two of who's successful, who sticks around, and who doesn't make it.
Right. And I mean, I think the other thing there is, consumer trust, bigger topic than it's ever been before. If we think about how we've treated consumer safety in the past and the trust that goes along with that, we have recalls. Well, how do you recall a vulnerability?
Mm-hmm.
You put out a crappy iPhone that now needs to get patched, or a crappy Android or whatever. I'm not going to pick on any particular vendor, but something no good happened and now you got to fix it. Well, in the physical realm, we do recalls.
Mm-hmm.
They mess up your car, you go down to the repair shop and they, put a new part in, and so I think as the insurance companies this year start to change how they operate because of the pain of last year and all the payouts they had to do, I think you're going to start to see a higher degree of accountability from insurers, from risk, assessors, and that ultimately should translate then down, hopefully to safety and to the consumer.
So you mean IoT might actually have a patch management program in place to?
I've heard rumors.
Just get it out there. We'll figure it out later.
Well, just remember, if you can see it on your cell phone, we can see it on your cell phone.
Yeah. Evan, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think businesses that get this right are the ones that treat information security risk like they treat other risks, like they treat financial risk, like they treat, reputational risk, regulatory risk, right? It's another risk. It's another seat at the table that has to be considered in business decisions. And companies that get that right give it that appropriate attention. On the flip side, I think some of the CISOs that are really successful are the ones that understand that information security is another risk that the business needs to consider. It's not the risk. Sometimes we get so passionate about security that we forget that we're a risk, not the risk. And I think CISOs, that's one of the things that they can really help to elevate is this is just another risk that we need to consider, and businesses need to make sure that they're considering that risk. It just seems like that's kind of happening more, but like I said, we got a long way to go.
Yeah. As a CISO, it's my job to bring attention to the risks and the businesses to make a decision on, right? You bring the risk and recommendations. Business makes a decision on what's going to happen. They may accept the risk and you go, oh, okay. I've done my job. I've educated them, given them hey, here's the risk, the threat, the vulnerability. Here's what the potential impact is. Here's my recommendation. It's your call.
Right. And ultimately it is on the business, right? And I don't know if that's a saving grace in the security world or not, but I've been there and I've had to, just like you. I mean, you hand over the information, you deliver it in the best way you can. But ultimately the business does have to make that decision.
And document it. Got a little CYA.
Sign offs are always helpful.
Yes.
You know me, I like to keep things simple. So I always say CISOs have two jobs. One is to consult on information security risk. The other is to implement those risk decisions as best as possible. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, a lot of security professionals struggle with that because it's not always the quote unquote, air quotes, right thing to do.
Well, and I think part of that too, and you guys have seen this as well, there's a little bit of fear. So I told you the risk and you accepted it, but I know that you don't maybe 100% really know what you just said yes to. And I know that even though you said yes to it now, when the problem happens later, it's my office you're going to be standing in screaming, how did this happen? So I think there's a little bit of that. And the more burned out a CISO is, I think the greater that fear is.
But then it's almost like that death spiral, right? So then, if you're burned out, you're not communicating well, you're shutting off the businesses and now you've lost that seat at the table. So it's a nasty cycle if you're not really careful about it.
Right. And I think and
when those things happen, you have to sort of wonder, how good of a consultant am I to the business if they're accepting risks they don't understand?
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's a room to grow there with us as an industry. I think one of the things we need to fix as part of the broken industry is what does that standard guideline look like? Yeah. What is a best practice for a CISO to articulate risk? And is there any commonality, or are we all just kind of running around doing our own thing the best we know how and then wonder why everybody's confused?
If only somebody was writing a book about that.
I wonder if there's this guy. Might be.
This is going to be fun, Ryan. We're going to have a good time. We're like the 3 horsemen. We need one more, and we can have the 4 horsemen.
Oh, great!
Of the information security apocalypse.
Seriously.
Right. All right.
And on that note,
yeah. All right, moving on. What about improved collaboration among information security professionals? Are we seeing better collaboration? Right. I think there's. Oh, I pulled an Evan. Are we seeing better communication amongst the other professionals in the industry?
I think there's
one of the things you said.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. One of the things you said to me on Friday, Ryan, when you and I were talking, there were 2 things that really stuck out to me. One was we sort of wished that we would have gotten together sooner, right? I mean, the 3 of us, I think me, you, and Brad could have done. We will do great things, but sooner would have been great. But the second thing that you said that really stood out to me was motivation, right? If you have the right motivation, if you're coming from the right place, so this collaboration thing, I think there's more collaboration in our industry. One of the things I question is the motives behind the collaboration sometimes. I'm not sure if there's so much money to be made in this industry right now, so you got to be really careful with the collaboration. If you're collaborating for the right reasons, or if it's to take advantage of something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think from an individual level, I think we're seeing more as people. Again, it's very hit or miss. It's similar with like the CISOs and being successful, but there are more people that really are seeming to be coming to terms with, I can't do this alone, and I need to work with other people.
Yeah, I think there's a decrease in the fear. Mm-hmm. One of the problems that we've had for many, many years is we don't talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And part of that is because hey, I'm not in the business of exposing the vulnerabilities, right? So I have these risks I'm trying to work through. I have these maybe failings of the organization I'm assisting that I'm trying to work through, and I need to talk to somebody about it. But in talking to you about it, I'm showing cards that I maybe don't want to show. And so I think I'm seeing, at least on Twitter, some of the pseudo anonymous feeds, if you will, that I follow. I'm seeing a lot more willingness to disclose some of the challenges, where I didn't see as much of that maybe a year and a half ago, where folks were actually giving or pro tips. I've noticed that in the consultant community, there's a little more of, hey, this is the tool I use to solve that job. And, just a willingness to share what's in the toolkit too, I think.
Well, and I think maybe part of it is being in the consultant side of things, to be, they have a relationship with us where they're now opening up because they know, hey, we see this, hundreds of places versus their one.
Right.
So, hey, here's a challenge I'm facing. Right. I had a meeting with someone, I think last week. I can't even keep track anymore. But they're like, we want to put in multi-factor. What do I look for? I don't know where to start, or CASB, or whatever it is. I don't even know where to start. Can you help me? Well, yeah, absolutely. Ask.
Oh, right? Yeah. And as we do more in the K-12 space, you'll notice that that's a group, that loves to collaborate. But at the same time, even in K-12, there's a little bit of competition, if you will. So it's interesting to see where those lines start to get drawn between how much is collaboration, and to Evan's earlier point, right? What's the motive behind the collaboration? Right. Are you doing it to further the world, to, enhance the greater good? Or are you doing it to fatten your pockets and get one over on your competitor?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I'll be working on this year, more of the innovation side of things. And one of our analysts, Eric, had a really good kind of suggestion where we're trying to come up with the mentor program, and how do we expand on that to provide more value over the course of the entire year? Why don't we hold industry roundtables, put some NDAs in place, and get people in here and talk?
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Facilitate those conversations, right? So, I think that's definitely an area of, that could be improved, but is getting better. People are being less afraid to ask. All right. What about fundamentals? Are people focusing on the fundamentals? Are we still focusing on blinky lights?
I'd like to say that there's more of a focus on the fundamentals. So the last couple of years I've been, deeply in the public sector in K-12. And so there, absolutely. But we're even a step previous to that. We're teaching what the fundamentals are that need to be focused on. Yeah. So, you guys can speak more to the SMB and enterprise side and what you've seen. But
it's the same.
It's kind of just
it's the same. Like, hey, we spent $100,000 on our security products. Great. What's your asset inventory?
Right.
Dead silence. What are you protecting?
Well, right. And I do think there's a trend that I'm seeing, at least, where there's more of a increase on what are the fundamentals, right? To your point, I think that you just made in a previous comment, is folks want to, there's more folks reaching out now saying, hey, where do I start? And what does start look like? And so I think
you can write a book about this.
Only in Cancun. Yeah. Something about Minnesota winters makes my writing hand not work so good.
It's numb. I can't feel it. No, Evan,
I want to get you guys down here. I'll send you tickets maybe somehow.
Otherwise, they're not going to be happy.
Seriously.
No. So Evan, what do you think about that? The focus on fundamentals. Are we seeing people focus on those at this point, or what's your take?
Yeah. There's this, it's always sort of been there. It's this fight between the fundamentals and and Ryan touched on it too, the work, right? Who likes work? the fundamentals and, the money grab, the blinky lights, the cool buzzwords. There's always been this, back and forth between those things. The fundamentals still are the fundamentals, like you guys say. And I think a lot of people don't know what the fundamentals are. So I think that's one of the onuses behind the book, or is it onai? I don't know if plural bonus is onai or whatever. We're an author. We can call it whatever we want. I've seen more people talk about fundamentals this year than I recall in the past. I know I sat through or watched a couple of keynotes this year from some pretty good sized conferences, and the talk wasn't all flashy lights, cool hack stuff. It was more about, focus on the fundamentals. So I think the industry is moving more in that direction. With, basic questions about your information security program, about quantification, about measurement, about, I've asked, I don't know how many times from CISOs, what's your definition of information security? How do you communicate the state of your security program? And those are fundamental things that you just have to put those constructs in place. And it's not as difficult as people may make you see, feel like it is. But I'm definitely seeing a shift in that direction, which is really positive, because you can't build the rest of this stuff until you focus on that, right? It's just a house of cards. It's going to come crumbling down. So I like that. I think we're making progress.
Yeah. I think we were talking about it. It's not difficult, but it's hard work, right? Like the fundamentals are pretty straightforward if you get them, but it's not.
Well, it's tedious work. It's not sexy work.
Right.
Okay. Going through and interviewing the business as to why the asset's important to them so that you can quantify whether it's a critical asset or not critical, right? That's not the sexiest work.
Right.
And so I think, that's part of the challenge. And so that's where I think, hopefully we can work together to, did we lose Evan?
Oh, I think we did.
Oh,
all right. That's all right.
But, in closing, out my statement, it's, tools, automation, I think it's the stewardship of us to kind of lead the charge to say, how can we simplify doing the fundamentals? How can we make that easier, less tedious work to do?
Right.
And then I think we'll see an acceleration in the amount of folks that are actually doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you start with some policies. What should we be doing? Your policies define that.
Right.
They don't have to go any deeper than, hey, we need to have an asset inventory program.
Right.
Okay. I'm pulling in Evan with my notifications here. Anyway, yes, we lost Evan, but that's okay. So with that, let's focus progress on 2020 and what should we be asking ourselves. So I think the two questions there that are on the show notes are, am I making a positive difference? And are my motives focused on greater good or a selfish greed? And, it kind of comes back to what drives you, what makes you go forward. And like personally, one of the things that I love working here is I feel like every day I go home, I've made a positive difference, right? And I'm not just banging my head against the wall. And how many people have been in those jobs, and I know I have, where you're just like, I'm not moving forward. I'm not doing anything. I'm just fighting fires and running in mud. And is what you're doing making a positive difference?
Yeah, and I think I think that's a really important question to ask. What's my contribution, right? Yeah. Is the effort I'm putting in truly moving the needle? So I might be, having all the positive motivations, and I might be making a positive difference, but am I moving the needle and really making a cumulative difference, if you will?
Yeah, that's good. And then, that second one, are my motives focused on a greater good or selfish greed? That kind of goes back to that collaboration of why are we collaborating? And unfortunately, there's a lot of that money grab out there, and it's unfortunate to see, but
well, that's all right. We're going to just keep doing this until our voices are so loud that, folks can't help but hear that, if the business is cash grabby, maybe that's not the right vendor to do business with. One of the things that I coach all of my clients on is, who are you doing business with and why?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's that's going to become even more important as we see all these third party breaches continue, and third party of a third party of a third party of a third party, right? Well, if one of those parties is in it for the wrong reason, it can tarnish the reputation and relationship of all the other parties who might be doing it for the right reason. Right. So, I think it's important to ask those questions, not just of yourself, but also of the folks that you're working with. What are, so to kind of rephrase this, is the work they're doing making a positive difference? Yeah. Are their motives focused on the greater good or greed?
Right.
And I think that's important to ask of each other as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. Well, that's a good note to end on. Good job. I like it. So no news for today's show. We've discussed a lot. Looking forward to another great year. Wishing all the best to all of our listeners, and let's just kick some butt. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the other, keep our rating. So we'll kick butt together in 2020.
I like it.
As a wrap for today's show, thank you and welcome to the family, Ryan.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I hope Evan stays out of trouble, even though he dropped off. Next week, we are going to start devoting 10 minutes out of every show to help someone who is looking for a job or a career change. So if you are one of those people, get in touch with us and we'll feature you as a guest on a future episode. You can get in contact with us through email at unsecurity@protonmail.com. And if you're the social type, socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Brad and I. Ryan can be found at Cloutier.
Cloutier.
All right. I did get it right. Cloutier Sec. And Evan is at his usual spot at Evan Francine. That's it. And talk to everyone next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's unsecurity@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.